the one, the only, Ben Sion. Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just daf as we continue Maseches Gittin. Today's daf is Ayin Gimel, number 73. We're nearing the end of Maseches Gittin, about 2.5 weeks left of Maseches Gittin, and then we'll begin Maseches Kiddushin, which I'd say is probably my favorite Masechta in all of Shas. It's the only Masechta I really learned B'Iyin from beginning till end. Talks about Kiddushin, getting engaged, dating. Dating is probably the most enjoyable thing a person can go through in life. Once you get married, it's not that much fun. Plus, we'll be doing a new book, Shidduch Secrets, and the Hashkafa part of Yeshiva YouTube. Finishing a book about marriage, we'll go to Shidduch Secrets about dating. More fun, more enjoyable. Let's start from Ayin Beis on the Beis, the two dots near the bottom, about 10, 11 lines from the bottom. Amar Avuno, the Mishnah says, the Mishnah says, I'm giving you a get on condition that I die from this sickness. And then he goes and he gets better, and he starts walking in the marketplace, then he gets sick again. So we have to evaluate, did he die from the first sickness or the second sickness? If it was on the first sickness, it's a get. If not, not. Amar Ravuna, Gito Kimasnasa. Ravuna adds, Gito Kimasnasa. A get is like a matana when I give a present to someone. Mama Saso, Yaman Choser, a person who's on his deathbed, he gets called a matana shchivmira. He gives all of his possessions away, or maybe even part of possessions away. If he gets better, the matana is ineffective. He only meant to give it on condition that he died. Av Gita Mabun Choser. So too we see also from our Mishnah, right? A get, you give it, and then you get better. You didn't mean to give it. By a get, even though you just say write it, you didn't say give it. We say this opinion is like Rosh Shimon Shazuri's opinion. We saw earlier in Daf Samech Vav that even if you say kisvu, it's an assumption you mean to give it also. Whether we pass like that or not is a different discussion. But Rav Huna says we do pass like that. Afmas naso. When you give him a matana, as long as you say give it, even if you didn't make a kinyan, that's the chiddush of mana shchimera. It works with amira. Even saying it works. Tanan. Mishnah says zegidech mayom meis michol izev amadu halach b'shak v'chala meis omdim also imach maschol yarisha meis harei zegedim lav eno get. We try to evaluate, did he die based on that sickness or maybe a second sickness, in which case it wouldn't be a get. Via Amris, if you say, like Rav Huna, Imam Bad Choser, if he gets better, it's retroactively not a good get. Lamali, why do you have to figure it out? Right, Amad. He got better. Right? That's what Rav Huna said. Once he gets better, regardless if he gets sick again, once he gets better, they get his batal. Amar, even if it was from the first sickness. Amar remember of Yosef, Shmei the Rabba, Shenitak Micholi the Chol. It didn't mean in the Mishnah he actually got better. He was sick with one illness, and then he got a different illness, right? We'll try to figure out, did he die from the first illness or the second illness? Then where it challenges, Amad Kasani, Mishnah says, Amad, he got better. Amad Micholi Zev and Afal L'choli Acher. It means that he got better from one sickness, but went right into another sickness. Halach B'shuk Kasani. Mishnah says he walked in the marketplace, seemingly healthy. Halach Al Mishanto. It means that he was walking with a cane. He wasn't fully recovered. Hakam Mashman, Halach Mishanto Hu D'Ba'inan Umdina. Only when he walks in a cane, he gets better partially. And then he walks on a cane, then you need an evaluation. However, he never even got out of his bed, he just got a different sickness. We don't need umda, we assume he died from the first sickness. So the Gemara draws a conclusion for halacha. If a shchimra happens the same thing, he's sick with one sickness, and then he gets another sickness and dies seemingly from the second sickness, his matana is matana. We say it goes back to the first matana. The Gemara says, yeah, in the Amar of Elazar Mishmei the Rav, Shchimir Rashnitak Mechali L'chali, Masas Matana, it does work. Like Rav Huna. Rabba v'Rava l'sfir luhad Rav Huna. Rabba and Rav Rava disagree with Rav Huna's statement. They say that it's not really true, right? If I get better, if I give a get and then I get better, then it does not necessarily destroy the entire get. They say it is a good get. Even if I got better, it's a good get. This is the Takana the Rabbanan. Really, the Raisa shouldn't be a get. The Rabbanan, they're Masakin, it should be a get. Why? If we really paskin like Rav Huna, right? So we would say, okay, he says, I'm giving a get that based on that I died from Chol Yizeh. And then he gets better. So if he gets better, so it's not a get. But if he doesn't get better, then we say it is a get. But people will think, why is it a get? Right? If he got better, so then it's not a get now. He didn't get better. He died. The get was achar misa. We don't want people thinking there's a concept of get achar misa, even though it's really not the truth. But he didn't stipulate that it should be before. That it should take place before ma'achshav. He didn't say ma'achshav over here. So because of this concern, the Rabbanan established in this case, even though he got better, the get is a get. So the Gemara says, "Umika midi d'maraisa lo hevi gita midaraisa." It's not a get, like Rav Huna said. Mishum gzeira sharin neishis la'alma, or allow her to remarry. Even though the Rai says she wasn't divorced, they're not allowed to marry someone else. Shalom Amzerim. Whereas it does work. The Rabban have the authority to do this. Called the Mekadosh like the Rabban Mekadosh. When you make Kiddushin, you do it based on the Das of the Rabbanan, right? When you say Harei Anim Kodesh L'Chag Das Moshe Yisrael, Das Moshe Yisrael, you're making your marriage dependent on the rabbis or the rabbinical court basically giving Haskam, agreement to it. If they don't give agreement, it's not a valid Kiddushin. They can uproot the Kiddushin any time. The Rabbanan removed the Kiddushin. They were never married. If he gave him money to her, so you can say that the money he gave wasn't for Kiddushin. The Rabbanan can say it was a matana. However, a Kaddish with Bia, one of the ways of doing Kiddushin is with Bia. The Mekadosh with Bia, how could you say it's not a Kiddushin? Fine, you can say that it was dependent on the Das the Rabbanan, but the Bia was a Bia for Kiddushin. Amalei Shviva Rabbanan L'Bilaso Bilas. The Rabbanan have the power to say that in his mind he did it based on our Das, not on his Das. So he, even though his Das when he was bowl for Kiddushin was L'Shem Kiddushin, the Rabbanan said his Das was to be bowl L'Shem Zdus for promiscuity as a harlot, and therefore it's not considered a good Kiddushin. Tana Rabbanan. The Brayso says, "Zeh gitech mehayom imesi michol." He says, "This is your get from hayom, right? From today. If I die from this sickness, and instead of dying, he did die, but he died for a different reason. The house collapsed on him. Oh, kisha nachash, or he was bitten by a snake. Ain't no get. It's not a get. The reason it's not a get is because he said he stipulated, I'm getting a get based if I die michol zeh. If I die from this sickness, right?" This wasn't the sickness; it was something else. And so the Seifa says, though, he says, if I don't stand up from this sickness, then it is a get. The Gemara asks, it should be the same halacha in both. Either it's not a get or it is a get. They send from Eretz Yisrael, achlo ari ein lanu. If he got eaten by a snake, by a lion, that's not a good get, right? Which is similar to the Reisha. The Reisha says it's not a good get because it's not. He meant from a sickness that he's giving a get, not if some other onus happens. And we're going to see this is the halacha. We'll talk about it, the specifics of the halacha going forward. There was a certain man, he sold land to another man. He wrote specifically in the Shtar Mecher when he said that any onus which happens, I take responsibility. And then there was a stream of water, a river of water that overflowed. He said, go pay him back. Go give him his money back. Any onus which happens, even though normally a river doesn't overflow its banks, right? You accepted a warranty, right? Any onus which happened, you're paying it back. You're giving the money back. Yes, there's types of onsin which happen, unfortunate circumstances you didn't expect, but this is a really a chance which doesn't happen most of the time. 98% of the time, it never happens. That he didn't mean to include. When he said onus, that's a regular onus, unforeseen circumstances, but a completely unforeseen circumstance he didn't mean to include, to give the money back. Igloi milsa, Igagal milsa. I guess they were fighting about it. Umatal l'kamei de Rava. They finally came in front of the court of Rava, who was the biggest court. Amrulhu, unzid lo shchiachu. It's an onus not shchiach. He doesn't have to give back the money. Eisei Ravina Rava. Ravina asked on Rava, from our brisa, Imlaman Michol Yizav enough all of Abayis, so Gisha Nachash or get. He said, if I don't get better from this sickness, and the house falls down on him, or a snake, are cases of onus that are not shchiach, right? It's not normal people to die from a snake bite, or a house to collapse. How raise that get? Nonetheless, the Tanai was this guy, and the stipulation came to fruition. It's again, we don't say it's onus to lo shchiach. Why don't you say from the beginning of the brisa, which says in the exact same case, ain't no get, right? We said before the Reish and the Seifa don't agree with each other. We can ask from the Seifa. We don't have to find the Reisha. So the Gemara says, we don't ask the question of it. I'm like, yeah, it's true. Came on the Kasha Reisha of the Seifa. Since we can't find a resolution between the Reisha and the Seifa, lo it midrasha. The Brisa was never taught on the base of Medrash. Whoever wrote it made a mistake, and therefore zil bas svar. You go after logic, and logic would dictate that something only that is completely unforeseen, as opposed to a regular unforeseen circumstance. There's a big difference between those two. We'll talk about that difference in Ian with Ben Zion, why an onus lo shchiach is considered different than a regular onus, and how does that? And we'll go back to the beginning of Maseches Ksuvos, ain't onus begittin. There's no concept of onus begittin. We'll try to reconcile this Gemara with that Gemara over there. So, right here we're saying onus lo shchiach. Right, it is an onus. There the Gemara seems to say ain't onus begittin. There's no tainus onus. We'll talk about that. Ian Ben Zion. The Gemara leaves off with a story. Rav Papa Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua Zavan Shum Shemi Agida Dinar Malka. Papa Rav Huna, they bought some sesame seeds, a large amount of sesame seeds. They had, they were selling potato breakers, which the sesame seed, or maybe they wanted to make some tlina. They bought it from Nar Malka. Agar Malchi Lavorinu. They hired sailors to cross over the river to bring it to where their factory was. Agida Dinahar Malko. Kabilu Alayu called Unsa de Misyale. The people that sold to them gave them warranty. If something unforeseen happens, we'll replace it. The Sofi Staker Nar Malka. It was dammed up the river and they couldn't get across. Amr Lahu Aguru Chamre Afginu Nahala. The Hakabisu Alayhu called Unsa de Misyale. He said, if we can't get it through the water, you have to hire for us donkeys to transport it back to our factory because you accepted any onus, right? These are white geese. They take off unceremoniously. They try to take off the shirts of people. These rabbis, you're saying about the rabbis. The rabbis are trying to steal money. This is an onus, not shliach. It's not common for a river to be dammed up. Therefore, who has to pay for the transport of the donkeys back to their factory? The purchasers have to pay for it. The Mishnah says, "Lo sis yached imo ela b'fnei edim." Right? Assuming we had, right, the previous Mishnah, you said mehayom imeisi, so the get takes effect retroactively when he dies. What about right after he gives the get and he puts that tanai in, right? So he didn't die yet. We don't know if he's going to die. What is she allowed to do during those times? We assume she's married or not married. So the Mishnah says, "Lo tzis yachne," we shouldn't have yichud with him, ela b'fnei edim, unless there's an aid there. One aid is also. I feel even a slave or a maidservant could be a good witness. Unless it's her personal assistant, because she won't be embarrassed of being together with her husband. We're worried that if they're together, they might go ahead and be boel, even though the get is supposed to take effect. They would be boel l'shem kiddushin, and therefore it'll be the start of a new marriage. And the get took effect, but then they have a new marriage. They need another get. What's her status during those days? Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Ke'eshes ish." The top of my Gimel is "Ke'eshes ish l'chol varesh." She's treated as a married woman. Meaning what? Rashi explains that when the husband actually does die, so the get takes effect second before the death. So therefore, she was always married to him, and therefore, if she has commits adultery during that time, she's a married woman, and she gets chenek. Rabbi Yossi Omer Miguresh Zaydim, which is a suffix. Rabbi Yossi says we're not sure during those times, even after he dies, right? The whole times are suffix. We're specific. Does the get take a second effect right before he dies, or does it take effect immediately? There was a suffix, and if she commits adultery, you should bring an asham taloi, which is a korban you bring in a case of suffix, whether you're chayav achatas. The Gemara says, "Tana Rabbanan, Ra'ua she'nsiachta imo ba'afela." We saw her after again the case of our Mishnah. He wrote again, "Ma'yom your migresh is today im mezi if I die." Tana Rabbanan, Ra'ua she'nsiachta imo ba'afela. They didn't see that they were miyached in a room; they were miyached in the darkness. Oh, she'yashna imo tachas margalos hamita. Or people saw that they slept underneath the bed. We don't think that they were actually together. However, we do suspect that they were together and promiscuous. Ve'im choshesh mishum kedushin. We're not choshesh for kedushin, that they're a boal, that they had bia for kedushin. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, af choshesh mishum kedushin. We are worried about kedushin. So then we immediately ask, Micah Omer, right? The first statement of the Tanakama, right, says ein choshin shem letasku davrak. We're not concerned they were together. And then it says choshesh mishum zdus. We are choshesh they were together. There was harlotry over here. There was prostitution over here. So the word is Micah Omer of Nachman Omer of Ravua Haki Gamarua Shenivala. If we saw that they actually were together. Choshin mishum kedushin. We are worried that there was kedushin, that he was bolish in kedushin. Nasam laksafim. However, if he gave her money, choshin mishum zdus. We assume that the bia. We do assume if you saw bia, there was bia. But if he gave her money, he paid her for a prostitute. He wasn't bolish in kedushin. You don't need a new get. Damrina bestana nasam. He gave her payment for the prostitution. Vein choshin mishum kedushin. We're not choshesh for kedushin. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, apazu choshesh mishum kedushin. Even if he gave her money as a payment for harlotry, prostitution, we assume they did it for kedushin. Keman az lahad amar Rav Brachana amar Rabbi Yochanan machlokes shruah shenivala. We'll see a machlokes beisham b'yisrael coming up, I believe, on the next stop. Machlokes beisham b'yisrael is when we saw that she was nevelas. Aval ra'u shenivala. If we didn't say she was nevelas, divrei hakol, ain't tzrichim I don't get. If there's no testimony that they actually were nevelas, even though we saw yichud, right? You don't need to get. That would be, you don't need to get sheni. Come on, k'divrei hakol. That would be both like Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. We'll discuss that tomorrow. Maskul Abaye. Abaye says midik sofim ksani. Is that really the correct explanation of this brisa? Doesn't say anything about money, getting paid for money. El amar Abaye hachik amar. This is what the brisa means to say. Ra'ua shenivala. If we saw that they were actually together, right? Yichud doesn't count, but if they saw it together, choshim mishum znos. We assume that they did it for promiscuity. We don't assume they did it for kedushin. If they were together, we assume they did it for kedushin. You need a second get. According to this explanation of Abaye, we saw they were together. Right? It depends if they saw she's nivala, but if you didn't see she's nivala, you don't need to get sheni. Come on, Rabbi Yossi Yehuda says, no matter what, if they were together, we assume it was from kedusha. So therefore, the machlok is according to Rabbi Yossi Yehuda, or the statement of Rabbi Yochanan was according to Rabbi Yossi Yehuda. Maskila Rava asked on Abaye's question, explanation, my af. Why does it mean af mishum kedusha? He could have just said mishum kedusha, right? If they were together, we assume it's for kedusha. Elam Rava hachikamar. Rabbi Yossi Yehuda Omer af lo ra'ush nevelay. Even if they just were miyachid, right? Yichud choshim mishum kedusha. We assume they were together and it was mishum kedusha. Come on, Azla Hada Amar Rav Rachana Rabbi Yochanan Machlokes Sharosh Nevala. The Machlokes Beis Shammai tells us when they saw that there was bia. Aval Rosh Nevala they were calling a strich why not get. If there was no bia, there was only yichud. You don't need a second get. Come on, the lochad. It's not like either of them because they argue on two counts. The Rabbanan and Rabbi Yossi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yossi Yehuda, even if there's yichud, we assume it's shum kedusha. And according to the Rabbanan, if there's bia, we don't assume it was for kedusha. We assume it's for znus, unless we know it's for kedusha. So it's not like anybody. So where it says, the Mishnah says, Mahi bo'osan Yomi. Rehuda Omer ke'esh shel chol doreh. Rabbi Yossi Omer goresh ze'en goresh. Rehuda says, when he dies, she was married until a second before he died. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's a suffix. Tana b'avad sheyamos. Right? Both these opinions are only saying what they say. If he actually dies, then the get takes effect. Then where it says, L'chi ma'ayis hevigita, when he dies, it's a get. V'akayim la'nein get la'achar misa. Seems to be a case. La'achar misa. It's not clear that it says in the Mishnah. I explained it says in the Mishnah that he said me'ayom, but up until now the Gemara doesn't assume that. The Gemara he wrote in the get, Hare I'm megarish you imesi. So the Gemara answers basically what he said along. I'm a rabba ba'omer me'eis shani ba'olam. He said either he said me'ayom or he said the get should take effect from the time that I'm in this world, meaning before I die. Since he stipulated from the time that I'm in this world, so according to Rabbi Yossi it means a second before he died. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, it means a second before he died. According to Rabbi Yossi, it's a suffix. Did he mean from now when we're giving the get, or a second before I died? And therefore, you'll bring an Asham Taloi if she commits adultery. Hope you enjoyed today's shir. Stay tuned for Enoch Ben Sion, where I discuss Ayin Gimel and Aleph, the concept of the difference between onus and onus lo shliach, and tie it into the beginning of Maseches Ksuvos, and how we deal with onus begittin, the psak halacha and onus begittin, and we'll explain it based on Maseches Ksuvos at the beginning. Ian with Ben Sion coming up next.